Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the College Football Game Day show. I was absent yet again, but my boys held down the show for me as a second hurricane tried to take me out. But we roll on. Great show from the boys last week. It is, of course, Andy Hopper to my left, Tom Scavetta to my right. We'll jump right into it for the weekly recap. Andy, you guys both had power, you both had cable, so let me know what games you were watching and which ones caught your eye in week 7.
Well, first of all, I will say I am very glad that you are all good. We did dedicate last week's show to you, Brian. It is the George Bush meme, a second hurricane has hit Brian. Um, but no, there was a lot of good football last week. So I had a golf outing Saturday morning that actually it only took us like 3.5 hours, and we started at 9 a.m. So I was able to get back in time for the Illinois Purdue game. So that was the big one, giving me a goddamn heart attack. Up 24-3 at halftime, absolutely doing whatever they wanted, up 27-3 at one point, and Purdue actually goes on to outscore Illinois 40-19 in the second half. It takes Illinois overtime to put away Purdue. Dylan Rosiak getting a sack on Riley Brown, who actually had a really good day for Purdue, to seal it on a 2-point conversion attempt. Illinois 50, Purdue 49. Haven't felt that way in a long time at an Illinois game. But also it's that feeling that I've felt a million times as an Illinois fan. Like, what the fuck? Like, I've seen this movie before. Just completely going through every range of emotion, hand in my face. We're gonna lose. We're gonna fucking lose. How the fuck we lose this game? What the fuck is going on? I got a nice ILL chant started in the horseshoe, which was good. I reconnected with an old buddy. Grew up 15 houses down from me. Walked by me, and I actually ended up sitting near me for the end of the game, and we were lamenting to each other. But other than Illinois almost blowing it, they didn't. They're 5-1. Michigan this week. How about Oregon and Ohio State? I think that was the game of the week. Oregon getting the win, 32-31, and it's something everybody talked about. It's something we're going to talk about in the next segment, so I won't get into it too much. But Dan Lanning playing 3D chess, not boys, with that 12 men on the field penalty to take that time on the clock and prevent a big play. But big win for the Ducks at home. How about Florida giving Tennessee everything they could handle in Knoxville? Tennessee escapes 23-17 in the last one, another overtime game. Tom, I know this one you were watching as well. LSU pulls out a shocking win over Ole Miss. I say shocking because they led for 0 minutes and 0 seconds of this game, winning with that last second. Well, I shouldn't say last second field goal because it was overtime. There was no time on the clock, but you know what I'm saying, a walk-off field goal.
Yes.
And Vanderbilt get on the Diego football train. I've been on it for about 2 years now. You guys are late over Kentucky. Those are the big ones for me.
All right. How about you, Tom?
Diego Pavia in the SEC. That doesn't sound right to me, but you know what? He belongs. Let's give credit where it's due. How about Arizona State on Friday night, guys, over Utah?
Yep.
Also, did you guys hear Cam Rising, who is 25 years old, likely done for the rest of the season and will have an 8th year of eligibility
if he wants it, yeah,
next season if he wants it.
Oh my God,
I hope he's done. Like he's just beaten up. He's not going to be a good NFL quarterback because of his injury history, unfortunately.
Well, he didn't look right on Friday.
No.
You could tell he was kind of, I don't want to say rushed back, but it's almost to the point where he thinks about hanging up the cleats, Tom.
Yeah. Also, I do want to say, holy shit, the post-game interview from Kenny Dillingham, the youngest coach in Division I, like, oh my God, like he was so passionate, so energetic into this team. Are the Sun Devils back? Like, as far as like being competitive again, like, you know, last time, like 2013, 2014, they were really good. And then, you know, they fell off. But yeah, other than that, you mentioned LSU. They sacked Jackson Dart 6 times. How about Penn State knocking off USC in overtime on the road, despite Drew Aller's 3 interceptions? Drew Aller, the real Drew Aller, stood up in this game. He was not good at all. But you know who was good? His tight end, Tyler Warren. This is a stat line for one game for a tight end. 17 receptions, 234 yards, and 1 touchdown for a tight end. For a tight end, that's like a month's worth of stats for some tight ends, okay? Just want to throw that out there. He is the number 1 tight end in the nation this season. He's that good. I think Harold Fenton Jr. for Bowling Green is a close second. Crazy I'm saying that, like a G5 school. But yeah, Tyler Warren is the man for Penn State. And how about Alabama surviving the Cox? Look, Jalen Milroe did not look right in this game. I don't know. Beamer's got something going on down there with South Carolina. They're hanging in close. They're hanging in real close. And to build off that, Dylan Gabriel, as of this day, should be the Heisman favorite for 2024, in my opinion.
Ooh, love-hate relationship with that one for me. It hurts, but I love it.
This is a quarterback award, right?
Yeah. I knew you were going to bring up the Tyler Warren. That was one of the few games I was able to catch on the old. We didn't have any cable, no power, but we did have the old school antenna going on. So we were able to catch a few channels. That was just an absolute beast mode performance by him. It was one of those things where I think Allard just realized, hey, I've been messing up quite a bit in this game, but everything I'm throwing to Tyler is working. So let's just load up everything I have and send it his way. And it continued to work because, a USC defense is never great. So they were able to produce there. But yeah, the Oregon-Ohio State game, that was incredible. Like Andy said, we'll talk a little bit about that one, a little controversial ending there. LSU, Ole Miss, that was also a good one. I had some friends who evacuated to LSU. They're alumni, and they went to that game. They said it was electric atmosphere, as it usually is in Death Valley. I guess the only other one that kind of caught my eye, again, this is going to be one we're about to talk about in the news segment, Texas just obliterating Oklahoma. Listen, these games used to be pretty close. They would trade blows with wins and losses, but Texas just has a hold on this rivalry now. That team is just so complete, and they look really good, I think. Probably deserving of that number one spot. And then I'll just end it by saying UCF with another loss. So I think our season is sadly over. But no, we'll jump right into the new segment. No catchy title this week because these are just a few fun segments. Nothing too serious. But they're all pretty enjoyable. Andy got a laugh at them from what I could tell. So we'll jump right into the first one here. Dan Lanning confirms that Oregon's 12 men on the field penalty was intentional. He was being interviewed, obviously, about this infamous play. Gave a little wry smile and said that he didn't outright say that it was on purpose, but he said they practice these type of things, these situations. And then hours later, the NCAA announced that they would be investigating this rule in whole because, they just got to throw an extra defender out there and take some time off the clock. Andy, they did rule earlier today that if a defense has 12 players actively participating in a down in the final minutes of a half, the offense can then choose, along with the 5-yard penalty, to have the game clock reset. Boo, boo, boo. But this is probably the right move. So what are your thoughts on, the play itself, I guess, and then this quick turnaround here for the NCAA to say, nope?
Again, 3D chess, not checkers. I think Dan Lanning just proved how smart of a coach he is when he made that move. I think he said in the press conference during some of the timeouts leading up, they had an inordinate amount of conversations about this. And it's smart. You put an extra DB on the field and you prevent a big play, give up 4 yards or 6 yards or whatever it was. You take 4 seconds off the clock and then we see what happens. Good on him he's clearly smart. He has high football IQ. He knows the rules and was able to, use this loophole to his advantage. It's funny how quickly the NCAA jumps on this, but they can't. They stay pretty silent about some NIL discrepancies, guys redshirting in the middle of the year, jumping into the portal. But no, a guy makes a genius coaching move, and we're going to go ahead and say that's legal, which I do. I see both sides of it, to be honest with you. But I have no problem with what Dan Lanning did. I think he's a genius.
Yeah, so from my understanding, the NFL already does it this way, so they're kind of just bringing themselves in line with the other professional league. But yeah, for me, I do love it. I know I was talking to you guys like right after. I was watching that game, like I said, on the old antenna at my dad's place because he was the only one with power in the area. And that was the first thing I said to him. I was like, absolute genius move before they even said what the flag was for. Because, you could tell the guy just ran out there at the end. And I believe this happened last year. I was trying to look up the game. But same situation. You basically get to throw a free player out there, run down the clock, and you've got extra defense. So I'm going to continue trying to look for that game. Hopefully I can find it by next week. But I know this happened maybe in an LSU game last year, and it worked in that instance too. So genius move at the time. They get the win. Big win, actually. Tom, what are your thoughts here?
These situations don't show up often, but they had worked on it. They exploited it. It's a genius move. yes, this got Ohio State 5 yards closer to field goal range, but Oregon got the necessary time off the clock. Unfortunately, I'm irate about this, guys. Like, sure, it would suck if it happened to my team, but I think it's fair. I mean, it's being smart. You're punishing somebody for being smart, in my opinion. Examining this rule is basically saying, oh, we're not going to reward someone for being intelligent, and we don't want to give smart head coaches a competitive edge. For example, right? You're being told that studying the most in your classroom, let's just say, for a test and being the most prepared should not get you the best grade. This is a class 1 case of chicken shit by the NCAA. I wouldn't have as much of a problem with it if they were more consistent with other stuff, like Andy said, like the NIL, these guys self-redshirting, but they don't. There's a gray area. They pick certain things and just say, oh, this is illegal now. We're going to, make this a new rule. But like Andy said before, you got guys transferring every other week now, and it's getting out of hand. Class 1 chicken shit.
Well, let me throw this out there. If this happened, let's say in like the MAC or like the Mountain West, like let's say fucking like Northern Illinois is playing Toledo.
They don't address it.
And that's how Toledo loses the game. Do you think the NCAA says anything?
They don't address it at all.
Yeah. If this is not a nationally televised game, how do you want better? If this is 2 low P4 teams, if this is fucking Wake Forest versus NC State.
Yeah.
Do they say anything? And there's no disrespect to any of those schools, but I think the situation and the time slot of this game has a lot to do with how quickly this ruling came down as well.
I think the interview if he didn't do that interview with the sly smile, I honestly don't know if they would have reviewed it, because the timing for them to announce that they were going to review it was so quick after the interview. Like he basically admitted it bluntly to everyone's face, like, yeah, we did that shit. And then we got the W. So kind of forced the NCAA's hand, in my opinion. I don't know. I think without the interview, maybe a lot of Ohio State fans send angry letters. I don't know if they changed the rule, but maybe they still review it. But yeah, with how the interview went, I think it kind of forced their hand there. Moving on to the next one here, we have Oklahoma safety Billy Bowman says Texas didn't earn their win versus the Sooners. He really meant that the Sooners' mistakes were what caused the loss. But for anyone who saw the scoreline 30-43, it kind of sounds really stupid to say they didn't earn that win there. So, Andy, what are your thoughts on, I guess, the level of, earnesty or stupidity here in this statement by Bowman?
Yeah, bro. Did you fucking gift wrap them 406 yards of total offense? Like, sure, they fumbled the ball a couple times. They did force that interception on the first, possession of the game, and went down and scored no points. They missed the field goal, and then from there, it was all Longhorns. I mean, I get what he was trying to say. Like, there were a couple situations where they just didn't put themselves in a good situation to stop Texas. But to say that they didn't earn that win when you gave up 34 points and 400 plus yards, I think that's pretty egregious.
Yeah, Tom, what are your thoughts here?
And did you see Sark's response? He's like, "Not my problem. We won next game." Literally 7 words in his response to Billy Bowman's comments. Well done, Sarkisian. By the way, did you see him walking into the presser with a corn dog in hand and taking a bite into it?
Sarkisian?
I thought it was, yeah. Mm-hmm. Post game, I thought that was pretty funny. Like Andy said, there's not much more to say. The Longhorns dominated on all phases. Man up, own it. You lost. Next.
Yeah, this was. I mean, they really need to make sure they're teaching these kids the interview. What do they call that class that they make all the student athletes take so you can
PR 101?
Yes, yeah, the PR class
or something like. I think that's actually just like a class anybody could take at a school, but it's something in that vein, though, right? There's some kind of
He I think he's been skipping that class because this is just a really stupid comment to make. You got absolutely boat raced out of this rivalry game. Wasn't even close. I know Oklahoma is sporting a lot of injuries. Yeah, they made probably far too many mistakes, but that's the number 1 team in the nation, and they just absolutely blew you out. So I don't know.
It wasn't close.
Why you're making that? This is like reverse bulletin board material.
Yeah,
you lose so bad that this is just going to get hung up and laughed at in the Texas locker rooms. And
just major cope is what it is.
Exactly. The last one here we have is Penn State. I will roll this video after running this. Penn State fan paid at least $1,500 to run out of the tunnel with the USC Trojans players while dressed in full Nittany Lion gear. This is a program, I guess you can say, that USC runs. Anyone can run out of the tunnel. There's apparently no rules based on what everyone was looking at for this fundraiser that they have set up here. It can run as high as 1,800 depending on the opponent. Penn State ranked, in the top 10. I'm assuming this is probably closer to 1,800 than it was to 1,500. But this guy just dressed in full Penn State garb here. I don't know if you guys watched the full video with audio or not, but if you listen to the very beginning, I think he was dressed. I think he had a shirt over his Penn State one, because as the USC players are walking by, he's like, "Let's go, boys! Let's go!"
I heard that. I didn't know if that was him or not.
It was. I think he maybe thought he would get tossed if they knew he was in Penn State gear. So I think this is a little undercover operation. But I'll run the video here on the screen. Andy, what are your thoughts? I mean, this is just hilarious, but what are your thoughts, I guess, on the USC programming for paying to do this and what this guy accomplished?
Fuck it. I mean, like, I would like to think there might be some more rules now that this guy is taking a video of himself and it's gone viral. But he had one of those like 360 cameras on. I'm glad you brought that up because I definitely was confused about that at the start. Because, at the start of the video, he's kind of like off to the side, like in the back. Which I thought was a smart move. He let USC go all the way, like let them get all the way out. And then he turns and he looks and you can see Penn State's back there. And he's like, all right, let's go, boys. And he basically fucking set it up so he could lead Penn State out of the tunnel. So this guy's a genius. But I don't know. I think that is a good observation by you, though, Brian. I wouldn't be surprised if he had the Penn State hat on, though. So do you throw that backwards with the Trojan cover-up shirt? I don't know, but
maybe tucked into the waistband or something until it was go time.
Ultimate story where I'm sure there was a bunch of people like, who the fuck is this guy? running out of the tunnel. But yeah, I think more schools should do something like this, but maybe limit the opposing fans from doing it. But I mean, all the power to this guy. He's just a genius, like Dan Lanning, finding a loophole.
Exactly. Yeah, Oregon, if you're looking to hire another genius, get this guy. Tom, what were your thoughts on this tunnel invasion here?
I was laughing the whole time I was watching the video, and it's an epic move. Guy's being harmless. He paid the money. No problem with me. I mean, let the guy live and have some fun, right? He was pretty smart about it. And look, I don't like USC, so all power to him, man. If that was a Notre Dame fan doing that, I would have thought the same thing. Except I don't know if Notre Dame fans would wear a shirt above a shirt. I think they'd probably just go in with their Notre Dame pride and run out. But look, with the Big Ten now, new rivalries are going to form, right? Penn State going out to the West Coast. It was just weird, man. And Penn State fans typically don't go out to Southern Cal. So you get the opportunity to do that, make the most of it. You don't know when you're going back.
I think this guy might have actually been a California local. And I only say that because he was wearing the sleeveless cut-off tank. With that
Penn State alum in California.
Yeah. The guy who's pretty tan. And to add on to the genius here, he posted this to his Instagram, and I noticed that the Instagram handle there at the end said it was like his initials at the end, but realtor in front of it. So.
I saw that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is probably something everyone's going to catch that name now, and whether he's in Pennsylvania or is out in California, I'm sure this will get him a few hits to some of his expensive listings if he is in Southern Cal. Maybe make some more sales.
One big marketing ploy. He really is a genius. That's a good point about Big Ten fans, though, Tom. Illinois plays Oregon in 2 weeks. I would love nothing more than to be in Eugene. But I have to I shouldn't say fucking. I have to announce a game on the 25th, so I guess I can find a red eye from Champaign to Eugene and catch the 2:30 kickoff on Saturday. But no, it's cool. Parlays.
That would be a legendary trip right there.
Oh my god!
But yeah, so we'll move into our weekly segment, Parlay Party. Typically, minimum 4 picks and minimum plus 1,000 payout is our requirements. I did change on the sheet, but forgot to mention, if you guys didn't read it, I moved it down to 3 picks if you wanted to try and get us some wins here. But it looks like everyone went with at least 4 anyways. So Andy, you're up first. Run us through your picks for week 8.
All right, this is week 8, the week of the overs and Rutgers for me. I did have Rutgers in the parlay last week, and they got absolutely butt fucked by Wisconsin, 42-7. But I will not quit the Scarlet Knights, and I don't plan on doing it this week. So my first bet will be Nebraska at Indiana over 50.5. I put this in because I think Indiana's favored by 6.5. They have been a covering machine this year. But for some reason, I don't know. I just think Nebraska keeps this game a little closer. I know Nebraska games have trended under this year, especially the last couple weeks. But I still think that both of these offenses can put up some points. So I'm going to take over 50.5. Then I will go Rutgers -4.5, hosting UCLA. Here's a little fun stat for you fellas that applies to the Big Ten. Big Ten teams this year traveling 2+ time zones are 3 and 10. So all this travel is having an effect, or you can make an argument that is having an effect on these teams. Also, that could apply to Purdue and Oregon tomorrow night or Friday night. So I also think Rutgers is just a better team than UCLA. I think they'll be able to run the ball pretty effectively and win by at least a touchdown. Next, I will go Alabama and Tennessee. The Volunteers, another offense that started off really hot but has not been super great the past couple weeks. I expect that trend to turn around this week because it's going to have to if they want to be anywhere close to Alabama. So I'm taking over 56.5. The Bama offense is explosive. I like a lot of points in this game. Last time they met in Knoxville, we remember the goalposts being taken down and Tennessee winning that game in an absolute thriller. I think they each scored 50 points in that one. And then finally, this parlay will be hopefully cashed by the end of the 3 p.m. Central games. I'm taking Colorado and Arizona over 58.5 points. Two teams that don't necessarily play a lot of defense and two offenses that know how to get the ball in the end zone. So I'm expecting a lot of points all around here. And I'm expecting Rutgers to win by 4.5. So I thought about taking Rutgers out and doing another over. But I don't know. The Shiano men need a redemption after last week. So those four put together, plus 1258. This is on FanDuel. You might be able to get a different number on another book. This is just the only one I put it in. So $10, 120 to win, 125, 85.
Love it. I like this one. There's so many overs that, I mean, you're just rooting for points basically all day. Points
Yeah.
and Rutgers. What's
Exactly.
not to love? All right, Tom, run us through your parlay here for week 8.
5 legs. I'm shoving all my chips to the middle of the table. This parlay is going to hit. Indiana -6.5 comes in at -112. That is a lock. That is a guarantee that will not miss. Next up, Illinois money line. This is almost a guarantee to happen. They have a 7th-year walk-on quarterback in Jack Tuttle. Look, plus 136, that's great odds. Throw that in there, man. You only live once. Third leg, Alabama, Tennessee, over 53.5 points. They're going to run it up here. Milroe and Nico comes in at -162. Also, Ryan Williams is insane. He's going to make a lot of plays. Tennessee's defense has not looked all that spectacular. Georgia and Texas over 51.5. This is the most risky one here at -186 in my personal opinion, because Texas has not given up. I think it's more than like 13, 14 points in a game this season, but Georgia has an offensive firepower. They're going to look to rebound and score some points. So I think that 51.5 where I sold makes sense. And then finally, Utah -2.5. I don't see TCU going in there. Josh Hoover has looked good throwing the football, but TCU struggles defensively. And even though Cam Rising will not be playing, I do think Utah will lean on their run game with Mike and Bernard. I'm going deeper this week, boys. 15 for 262.40. And yeah, you heard me. Illinois money line. That's right. I want to make sure you guys heard me on that.
Yeah, I think, Andy, are you feeling a bit of a FOMO on that one since you can't bet Illinois games in Illinois after Tom just talked it up?
Dude, quick story about this weekend. Speaking of that, so my golf outing on Saturday was in Indiana, right over the border in a town called Covington. So as I was driving home, I'm like, oh, fuck, I can bet on Illinois. So I wasn't super confident in the spread, so I took their team total, which was like 34.5 or something like that. And I took Pat Bryant to score a touchdown, overtime touchdown. As I get across the border, I'm listening to the fucking Illinois pregame show. They announced that Caden Fagan was out. And immediately I'm like, okay, I need to bet Josh McCray to score a touchdown, but I don't have time to turn around. So I texted my buddy that lives in Indiana, and he wasn't able to get it for me. So I'm like in a panic, like trying to get it. So I text Tom. God bless Tom. He was working a game. And he texted me 2 seconds after Josh McCray scored the first touchdown of the game. And I was like, I've never been upset at an Illinois player scoring a touchdown. And I wasn't upset, but I was just like, you know how it is where it's like, how often am I actually right about shit happening? And then it was 100% was not on Tom at all. It was completely my fault.
Sorry.
But I'm like scrambling in my brain, like, who the fuck else can I text right now to put this in for me? But I guess DK like doesn't offer touchdown bets for certain college games or some college games. So use FanDuel for that, I guess. But I should have turned my ass back around to Indiana. But long story short, Tom, I might be texting you on Saturday. But yeah, that's my story time. Sorry.
Yeah, Congress, if you're listening, open up those in-state bets because look what you did to our man.
It's not just here. It's like I think Virginia, maybe New Jersey too.
I think it's most states. I think right. You can't bet on your own in-state teams.
You can't, no.
Yeah. So yeah, government get that sorted out for us in the coming years. All right, throw mine up on the board here. Like I said, haven't had too much of a look at the action from last week, obviously. But I am throwing together what I think is a decent parlay here. I've got Notre Dame -10 at Georgia Tech. Tom, I hope you like that one. Georgia Tech is a pretty good team. Haynes King, pretty good, but Notre Dame, since that loss, has just been absolutely rolling. I think 10 points is really not that bad of a cover there for the Irish. USC -12.5 at Maryland. Vegas seems to think this game is going to be a lot closer than everything I looked at. So I sold a few points here and got it up to +133, but I think this is going to be the make or break because maybe there's something about this Maryland team that I just don't know.
I mean, they just got fucking shithoused by Northwestern last Friday at home. Like, yeah, I'm with you on this.
Yeah, I didn't understand it. And I mean, I know USC is going to be a little tired from this last week's game, but it just seemed juicy to me, so I threw it on there. Vanderbilt -20 versus Ball State. That's -195. I think I
Chirp.
bought a few points there just to keep it under 21 in case they take their foot off the gas there. But yeah, like Tom said earlier in the show, Diego Pavia, absolute electric show that he's putting on in the SEC. Vanderbilt looking really good. They're probably going to be ranked for the first time in God knows how long if they win this game. So -20, I think they keep rolling with that electric offense. And then lastly, this one's a little sketchy, but it had to get me over the hump of +1,000. It is Georgia +3.5 at Texas. I sold a few points. I think the line in that game is like 5.5. So I sold a few to get that +164. I think that's going to be actually a pretty good game. I know Georgia is kind of unhinged this year under Kirby, but they're still a good team. They can lose by a field goal and still take this one. So that's +1,113, $10 to win 121. So kept it at 4 there.
Brian, I had to look up when the last time Vanderbilt was ranked. So the last time they were ranked in the final rankings of the year was 2013, which was 24th. 2012, in the final rankings they were 23rd, but looks like not during the season. The last time they were ranked during the season was 2008, where they got up as high as 13, which is nuts.
I feel like
before that it was 1984.
Oh my god.
Before that it was 1958.
Well, you know what? It seems like the spans are getting shorter, so I guess Vanderbilt fans have something. Yeah. I feel like I remember that 08 Vanderbilt team. They had like a no-name quarterback that year. Oh god, what was his name?
Didn't Jay Cutler go to Vanderbilt?
Yes.
Couldn't get him
That's
ranked.
not
Though.
what you're thinking of, Brian.
No.
Because Cutler came out in 06.
I mean, I would be really shitting on Jay Cutler if I just called him a no-name QB.
Whoever was after Cutler must have been the guy, or maybe the second guy after, if it was 08.
Yeah, I just remember. I remember he had like a really generic.
Smith?
What was it?
Larry Smith.
Was that really the name?
It says Larry Smith and Jordan Rogers.
I know it was a very generic like white guy name. I didn't think it would be as white as Larry Smith. But yeah, that sounds about right.
2008. All right, listed on their
Chris Nixon
2008 roster: Chris Nixon, Mackenzie Adams, Larry Smith. Well, he's a redshirt freshman, so maybe he didn't. Jared Funk,
Richard Kovalchuk,
God,
Archibald Barnes,
Turner Wimberly.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't love just sitting around with their boys naming Vanderbilt quarterbacks? You do this all day.
I'm gonna try to.
Go ahead and nix this segment. Yeah, I get it.
No, well, I'm sure people at home are listening to these names and thinking,
Some random Vanderbilt fan is yelling at their fucking computer or phone right now.
But I will say I'm going to the box score here. Last game of the season, the Music City Bowl. Their quarterback was Larry Smith, 121 yards, 0 touchdowns. So there you go. That'll put that one to rest. And it'll move us into our final segment of the show. It is Shots and Chasers, your roadmap to game day. And we'll start it off with the noon games. We have Louisville taking on number 6 Miami here. Andy, who do you like in this game?
Yeah, Louisville kind of going through a little bit of a rough stretch of this season. Obviously, they did pick up the win last week. Only 4 points, though, only a 4-point win over Virginia. Obviously, dropping the previous 2 games before that. Not going to get any easier with the game against Miami. We know this the Cardiac Canes, as I've dubbed them this year. They have kind of reminded me of Washington from last year, where just every game seems to go down to the wire. I think they are a really good football team. I think Cam Ward's a really good quarterback. And I think Miami, being the number 1 scoring offense, the number 1 passing offense in the nation to this point, is going to be too much for this Louisville team. I'm going to take Miami.
All right, Tom.
And Miami, look, they're coming off a 1-point win against Cal 2 weeks ago. That was their last game. They had the bye week, a lot of time to think about it. I think they're going to be guns blazing, a lot better. This team averages nearly 48 points per game, 400 pass yards per game. Andy mentioned Cam Ward. He's got 3 outstanding running backs, and Damian Martinez, Jordan Lyle, and Mark Fletcher Jr., each of them with 3 or more rushing touchdowns on the season. Xavier Restrepo with 5 receiving touchdowns, 585 yards through the air. He's that bona fide number 1 receiver. And they have weapons all across the board, man. Isaiah Horton, Jacoby George, and Elijah Arroyo, the tight end. Those guys get open over the middle of the field. Arroyo's got quick feet, good pad level for a tight end, and he'll be going up against that Louisville defense. And Ashton Gillott has to get to the quarterback. He's got to find a way to get there. Tyler Shook, look, Ja'Cory Brooks is really his only legit option in the pass game, in my opinion. You know, Chris Bell has been here and there, but if you're Miami, you just got to worry about containing Ja'Cory Brooks, and I think you'll be all right. I mean, but Kane's got some dogs on defense, and that 4.5 spread is more the question for me. And also, do you hear Louisville? This is a sellout for them, which is huge for them. This is like their 3rd sellout in like the last several years. So give me Miami here, but I think it's a close game.
Yeah, Miami just continuing to live on the edge, squeaking out these wins. You kind of have to wonder when it's going to catch up with them, if it does catch up with them. Because if they can't start taking control and keeping control of these games, I mean, I know we got 12 teams this year, so a loss isn't the end of the world, but if it happens a few times, they might be playing themselves out of the CFP. I know in the Week 6 show, they had another one of these types of games, and I was like, this is 2024's Washington. And then while we were watching, I believe, the games that weekend, Andy said basically the same thing. Great minds think alike. This is literally like I know they've got a Washington State transfer QB, not a Washington QB. But yeah, this team is just shades of 2023 Washington, just surviving and surviving, and you can't keep coin flipping it and expect to get somewhere. They had to rely on Cam Ward to put up 277 yards of offense in the 4th quarter to complete that comeback. So, I mean, the guy's a Heisman front runner for a reason, but they got to do better. Like you said, Tom, defense is pretty well rounded. I don't think they're elite, but they spread out the production really, really well, which I think is going to keep this Louisville offense in check. They've got 20 sacks as a team, and that comes from 10 different guys. 17 pass deflections, that comes from 14 different guys, and 10 interceptions, that comes from 8 different defensive players. So everyone putting in the work there, and like you said, Ja'Cory Brooks is just about the only offense that Louisville has right now. He's really good, 6'3", 195 pounds. He's got long arms. But I think if Miami secondary can keep a decent eye on him, spy him with a second player for some double coverage there, if they need it, I think they can keep Louisville in check. So I'm taking Miami to win this game. And then in our chaser slot for noon, we have Indiana, number 16, taking on Nebraska. It was on both your boys' cards, so I know you both have thoughts. Who do you think wins this game, Andy?
Well, just like everybody had drawn up this season, the Indiana Hoosiers would be the first team to become bowl eligible. Indiana's 6-0. They're 3-0 in the Big Ten. They've won all of their games by at least 14 points, and they've doubled up their win total from last year, fellas, after finishing 3-9. First-year head coach Kurt Signetti has absolutely changed the culture in Bloomington and made a big impact. Curtis Rourke, the transfer quarterback from Ohio, has been a big part of that. He's got over 1,700 yards, 14 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions. For Nebraska, they've got another, the other side of the coin at quarterback. They've got a stud freshman, hyped up recruit who hasn't played too bad this year. And has really, played well for the most part for Nebraska, leading them to a 5-1 record. 1,300 yards for Raiola, 9 touchdowns, only 3 picks. I think Indiana has it rolling at the moment, and I'm going to keep picking them until they tell me not to or prove to me that they are going to lose. I think this will be one of their toughest games to date. The number 16th ranked Indiana Hoosiers win this game over Nebraska.
All right, Tom.
If Indiana continues to win, you have to consider Curtis Rourke in the Heisman conversation, no? I mean, if they go undefeated, it has to be talked about. And they keep hitting every week, right? Both these teams are coming off buys. And for me, it's not just, the quarterback play. For me, the rushing game has been phenomenal. I mean, the offense all around, such good balance. I mean, you look at their running backs, boys. The Hoosiers have rushed for 23 touchdowns on the ground this season, 6 of them coming from Justice Ellison, 7 of them coming from Tyson Lawton. Those guys have done a really good job. Rourke has been kept on his feet, just sacked 5 times this season, and their offense averages 47.5 points per game. When they don't decide to run, they have more than serviceable receivers in Elijah Surratt, over 500 receiving yards on the season, and Amari Cooper Jr., Omari, not Amari. He has also been very effective as well. Defensively, too, I like what they bring with D'Angelo Pons, Amari Farrell, Mikael Kamara. Those guys have done a really good job. And then when I look at Nebraska, like Raiola's young, he's still learning. This is a Big Ten game on the road. This is going to be difficult for him. This is a hostile environment. Give me Hoosier Nation here to cover that spread.
Yeah, like you said, 6-0 for the first time since 1967 is this ranked Indiana team. Only the second time in history. They're the second highest scoring team in FBS, which is just wild to say, especially when you have a team like Tennessee that was just scoring like 80 points a game to start the season. But yeah, the Hoosiers sitting there at number 2. The big story for me, not so much the players, not so much Rourke, but first-year coach Curt Cignetti. He's been building successful teams everywhere he's gone. He was first at Indiana, Pennsylvania. Took them to the playoffs twice in 6 seasons. Then he goes to Elon. They were 12-45 in the previous 5 seasons before he came there. Immediately takes them to the playoffs. Of course, he then gets a bigger gig at James Madison. After doing that, wins conference titles all of the first 3 seasons. Makes the FCS Final Four all of those 3 seasons as well. And now he's got Indiana off to their best start in school history. So it's really been a cool team to watch. This story unfolding. The team is basically being built from the ground up. 54 new squad players, 30 of them are transfers. A lot of them coming from James Madison. Those kids believed in him. They followed him to Bloomington. I think they had 13 or 14 players transferred with him to Indiana. And yeah, I mean, they're scoring 40-plus points in the last 5 games. They've won all 6 of those games by 14 or more points. This is just a wild... This is like 80s Indiana basketball, just complete domination. But it is on the football field this year. And then, I will bring up Curtis Rourke, obviously, because he probably is the player to watch for everyone. He went for over 3,000 yards in 2022. He's already got 1,750 yards this year, 14 touchdowns, and a 74% completion percentage. And then I couldn't find the exact quote because I saved it and don't know where I saved it. But they asked Coach Cignetti what he was doing to get these transfer players. Like what his approach was, and he gave like a 1-sentence, I'm paraphrasing here, but he gave a 1-sentence answer that was basically just, he said, I tell them to Google me, I win. He basically said, Google me, you're going to see I win everywhere I go. I don't think you need any bigger of a sales pitch than that to get these kids in. What he's building is going to be really cool to watch for the rest of the season and for the upcoming season. You guys covered the Nebraska. I mean, Raiola is good. He's young. This Nebraska team is doing pretty well, all things considered, but I just want to ride the Hoosier trade for now, so I'm going with Indiana. Moving into 3:30, we have first up Tennessee versus Alabama here, number 11 versus number 7. These 2 teams hate each other. Andy, who do you think wins this one?
Yeah, I think we are in for another classic game here. Like I mentioned earlier, the last time these 2 teams met in Knoxville, it was a 52-49 win for Tennessee. That snapped a 15-year losing streak against Alabama. And then the Vols are looking to win back-to-back games at home against the Crimson Tide for the first time since 2006. I think a lot of people, when they were kind of looking ahead at the schedule earlier in the year, thought this had potential to be an undefeated matchup. That's not the case, obviously, to one-loss teams, but I don't think that should take away anything from this, how big this matchup is. These are two very, very good football teams in the SEC. They're both averaging 40-plus points a game. Nico is a young quarterback. He's a really talented quarterback, but I think Dylan Sampson could be a real X factor for the Vols. They're going to need him to take some pressure off Nico and really get after on the ground, which he has proven he is more than capable of doing this year. Second in the country, guys, with 15 rushing touchdowns so far, averaging over 115 yards per game. On the Bama side of the ball, Jalen Milroe has been Mr. Do-It-All, right? They're averaging 400 yards of offense themselves, 41.7 points per game. Milroe has accounted for 23 touchdowns and completed 73% of his passes. Also, you got this Ryan Williams kid. I say kid because he's 17 years old. It's absolutely insane. He leads the team in receptions, receiving yards per game, and touchdown catches. 23 catches, 96 receiving yards per game. It's like one incredible catch every game too, and 6 touchdown catches. I like this Tennessee team a lot. I think their defense is really good, but I don't know if Nico has enough experience to win this game. They're going to have a slight advantage, I think, being at home. The Tennessee fans are going to be loud and in Alabama's ear, but I think Milroe, Williams, and this offense are going to be too much. I like the Tide.
All right, Tom.
Another reason why it'll be a challenge for Tennessee defensively, Coach Josh Heupel announced that Keenan Peely, starting middle linebacker, will miss the remainder of the season with an ACL injury. Since Peely used that in-helmet communication, either Arion Carter or Jeremiah Tillander could take over. Probably Carter, more experienced guy. You beat Florida last week, but you didn't look good doing it. You lost to the Hogs 2 weeks ago. Nico has been hot and cold this season. He's maturing. He's developing. They lean heavily on Dylan Sampson and Deshaun Bishop. Sampson already has 15 rushing touchdowns on the season. The Vols average 246 rush yards per game. I want to see them get the ball a little bit more to Deontay Thornton and Squirrel White. I think those guys can really challenge Alabama's DBs and Keon Sabb and Damani Jackson. Each of those guys have 2 picks. If you're going to win this game, you're going to have to challenge them and beat them vertically. I don't see them doing this thing where they just run the football and keep Bama off the field. I think Bama's front 7 is too stacked for that to be allowed to happen. That being said, Q Robinson has 4 sacks. Who's going to account for him on that Tennessee offensive line? Now, don't be wrong. The Tide are coming off a 2-point win against South Carolina at home. A little bit concerning, but the X factor here, it's not Jam Miller. It's Jalen Milroe. It's 12 touchdown passes, 11 on the ground. That's 23 total touchdowns for him through 6 games. How can you stop his legs? How can you stop his short intermediate passing game to guys like Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard? That's the biggest thing for me. We mentioned it before. Tennessee's only beaten Bama once since 2006. Based off of that and everything I aforementioned, including that critical change on defense, I'm going with the Tide as well.
All right. Yeah, this is kind of an odd one. I was super hyped about this game early in the season. Still going to be a really good game, but both these teams were just off to such hot starts. And then Alabama, they get their crucial win against Georgia, which set them on a great path to top 4 seed. Tennessee knocks off the top 15, at least at the time. Oklahoma, they score 122 points in the 2 games previous to that. Both teams are just flying high. Then they both take really bad losses. One historic, in that Alabama loses to an unranked Vanderbilt, who is notoriously one of the worst teams in the SEC every year. And then, obviously, Tennessee needs overtime to beat Florida. Bama barely hangs on against the Cox, as Tom pointed out at the beginning of the show. But yeah, I'm going to lean probably Alabama here. I still think they're a really good team. They're just still kind of in that growing phase here under Kalen DeBoer. So better talent. They seem... I don't know. Tennessee just seems too jumpy to me still under Nico. Heupel, the offense that he runs, I don't think it's going to hold up against this more sturdy Alabama team that's more grounded. It's still a lot of guys who are there under Saban, so I think they understand this moment better. Jalen Milroe comes into the game 6 straight games with both a passing and rushing touchdown. Fun fact, he is the first player to do that since Tim Tebow, so it's been quite a while, but it's good company to be in. Tennessee, despite their struggles, they have looked like one of the better defenses in college football. They've held opponents to just 24% third down conversion rate. So they're really good at getting their defense off the field there, helping out getting more possession, more time of possession there for the offense. But my biggest concern here is still, like I said, they just look too jumpy. And Nico Imaliva, sorry, Tom, we talked about this. I know you gave me the correct pronunciation. Can you help me here. Ayama Liava.
Ayama Liava.
Okay,
Yep.
I knew we went over it, but of course I was gonna butcher it. But yeah, he's there's been concern that he's not staying in the pocket enough, which is true when you look at the tape. But it's not just that he doesn't look comfortable. The O line just hasn't been there after the first two games. He was sacked just one time in their first three games of the season. Those are their weaker opponents. Since then, he's been sacked 10 times, and that was against OU, Arkansas, and UF. This is an Alabama D line that's just going to come to absolutely wreck him. So I don't think they're going to be able to keep up here. I think Heupel is going to struggle with this offense. It's just he runs it way too fast, and it doesn't typically work out against solid defenses like Alabama. Your guys get tired really quickly. So I'm going with Tide here. Andy, your boys are up here. We got number 22 Illinois taking on number 24 Michigan. This is a coin flip. You guys both had games in the slot. Andy's team wins out here for the Chaser slot. But Tom, you get a little bit of a silver lining here because you do hate Michigan, so you can hate on them when you're
matchup. Yeah.
Andy, what are your thoughts here for your boys?
Oh, I'm nervous, boys. I'm nervous. So a couple weeks ago when Illinois played Penn State, I was very, very cocky and very, very overconfident. So I don't want to do that again because it came back to bite me in the ass. I'm a little bit worried, and let me tell you why. Last week against Purdue in a game that Illinois had handily won, they let the Boilermakers hang around. And what was Purdue able to do really well, and that was run the ball. The Boilermakers had over 237, I think, 237 yards on the ground. What does Michigan do really well? Run the fucking ball because they can't throw. But Tom made a good point. They have, the 6-year senior Tuttle coming in. Obviously, he's been around. He was at Indiana. He was Michael Penix's backup, which is crazy. But I do actually think he gives them the best chance to win at quarterback. So if you're Illinois defensively, just sell out on the run and make this guy beat you because I don't know if he can. Offensively, I'm not super worried. I think Luke Altmaier has been one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten so far this year. 1,400 yards, 14 touchdowns, 1 interception. Pat Bryant and Zachary Franklin, I'll put them up with just about any receiver combo in the country. They've combined for 798 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns. There is no Caden Fagan this week. He'll miss his second straight game. He is the Illini's leading rusher, but Josh McCray has stepped up, and he's stepped up huge in Fagan's absence. He had 3 touchdowns last week and 78 yards. He's made a couple big catches out of the backfield as well throughout the season. So I'm going to pick Illinois. Obviously, I'm a homer here, but I am very nervous. Let me tell you a little bit something about how much this game means to the university and means to Champaign. This is Memorial Stadium's 100th year anniversary. They are celebrating that this weekend. So I believe the day of the game is literally 100 years since Red Grange, Illinois legend, ran wild over Michigan, scored a couple touchdowns, and the Illini beat them. This is the first top 25 ranked versus ranked matchup at Memorial Stadium since 2000. It's been almost 25 years since we've had a game like this. It's the second sellout of the year. Illinois wearing special uniforms. I'll be in section 119 screaming my fucking head off. But yeah, I'm picking Illinois, but I'm nervous. I think this one is going to be very, very tight. If Illinois is able to stop the run and do what I think they're capable of doing on offense, I think they win the game.
Yeah, I don't want to hype them up with my pick as well because, like you said, don't want to jinx it. But I will take the Illini here. Listen, everything just falling into place. Tom got to interview Luke Altmaier earlier today. The Illini pulled off a 1-point overtime victory this past Saturday. Michigan's coming off a loss. Game's in Champaign, Illinois. Michigan might as well have gotten all 3 of their quarterbacks from a rotting pile of garbage because they just all suck that bad. Combined, they've thrown for just 690 yards through 6 games, have 6 passing touchdowns and 8 interceptions. So anything that Michigan puts under center is just absolutely failing. Their defense is good. I'll give them that, but they just can't produce on offense. Illinois is riding high. Love the hype train. How can you listen to what Andy just said and not pick the Illini for this game? So I will be watching TV for some Section 119 shots to see Andy screaming his head off. But in the meantime, I will be picking Illinois here tonight. Moving into our night games, we first up.
Can we get Tom's pick?
Oh, hold up. Quickly.
I skipped Tommy?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, goodness. Sorry about that, Tom. Tom, give us your thoughts here.
So they call him Uncle Jack Tuttle, because he's that old. That's actually his nickname on the team. Quarterback carousel continues. Brett Bielema could make the adjustments to stack the box, stop the run. Like Andy said, make this kid beat you. Or man, I should say. Colston Loveland is their only good receiver at tight end. Nobody else has over 78 receiving yards on the season. Illinois' last 2 wins have come in overtime. There's a good chance things happen 2 and 3s. This could be an overtime game, and these words inspired me, Brian, to possibly take a drive to Champaign. I can't, obviously, but it's a little bit inspiring there, man.
I got a couch you can crash on.
I appreciate it. So, yeah, Luke Altmaier has been phenomenal. That connection with Pat Bryant. Luke Altmaier, sick. I guess you'd call it a mullet, right? I love the hairdo. Great guy, confident guy, but humble guy as well. Says all the right things, has all the intangibles to be a successful college quarterback. He's had a long journey. If Illinois wins this game, Brett Bielema should be in the running for Big Ten Coach of the Year. Just saying. I don't know if he'll win it, but he should be in the running. Andy, now I ask you, October 31st, 2009. Does that date sound familiar to you? The last time Illinois beat Michigan.
Remember it well. Juice Williams absolutely put his dick in Michigan's throat.
Absolutely. And with that being said, making it a sweep, picking Illinois, that means, folks, hammer Michigan.
Yeah, it does. That's absolutely what it means. Congratulations to the Michigan Wolverines on a road win in the Big Ten. I appreciate you being with me, boys. Yeah, I'm fucking hype. I have tons of family members that are coming over. I have friends that are going to be in town. Me and my girlfriend will be out there tailgating. She hasn't been able to go to a game yet, so nice. I think we're dropping the kids off around 9 a.m. and then heading out there. So nice. It's 2:30 kick. So you can see how that will play out, or it is looking to play out.
Hell yeah, I love it. Now we'll move into the night games then. Starting off with Georgia taking on Texas. This is number 1 versus number 5. Huge matchup here. Andy, we'll start with you on this one yet again. Big game here. Who do you like?
Game of the week, fellas. A top 5 matchup. This is the biggest game for Texas in how long, guys? Well, I guess they played the playoff last year, but this is still huge. I know Georgia, they're 5-1, obviously, on the year. They kind of been, I want to say trending down, but it's hard to say that when you're still, winning games. But I don't think anyone has played as well as Texas has played this year. And I think the Longhorns get a huge win. Ewers is back. I think he's a better quarterback than Carson Beck. We had Kirby Smart have his little meltdown last week and shove the Mississippi State quarterback, which was one of the most Bush League things I think I've ever seen a coach do, especially with all the talk about the culture in the Georgia program, getting, have 25 plus players having, various legal troubles with whatever they are. Not a good look. I know that everybody's saying, well, he was yelling at his defensive coach. He didn't even realize he did it at the time. I don't care. You can't do something like that, whatever the situation is. Texas coming off the 31-point victory, Georgia coming off a win as well. But give me Texas. Give me the Longhorns. Are they back, boys? Yeah, I saw that. He knew what he did, bro.
First meeting since 2019. Colby Young suspended indefinitely, as he should be. Guard Tate Ratledge much closer to returning. Hopefully he's back for them. Carson Beck, what the heck, man? Not the best performance last week against the Bulldogs of Mississippi State. Luckily, Trevor Etienne continues to pounce on the ground with 4 touchdowns this season. Expect Arian Smith to step up over 400 receiving yards. Dominic Lovett, who has a clean record. Dylan Bell, who has a clean record. Lawson Lucky as well. All jokes aside, Lucky's been great this year over the middle of the field. 3 touchdowns. When they throw him the football, he runs great routes. I don't know why they don't give it to him more. Malachi Starks and Dan Jackson are really good in the secondary. Jalen Walker's been phenomenal, but this Texas defense has been unreal. They have not allowed more than 13 points in any game this year, coming off a 34-3 win against Oklahoma in the return of Quinn Ewers. He's looked good, but Arch Manning, I'll be honest with you guys, he's looked a little better. This is Ewers' team this year, but he's going to the NFL next year, and I'll be honest with you, they're tied to Ewers this season. Even though he's looked great, I think Manning has just looked a little bit better. Quintravion Wisner on the ground, Jaden Blue, Jarek Gibson, all those guys can run the rock really, really well. Isaiah Bond and Gunnar Helm coming over. Those guys have been really effective. Texas is coming off a huge emotional win, -3.5. I think they're the better football team right now. Something does not sit right here with me. A lot of people are picking Georgia to cover this spread, and I think they will. And for some strange reason, I think Georgia will win this football game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know where to go on this one as well. Huge talent on both sides of the ball. Like I said earlier, Georgia's kind of been a little unhinged with the off-field stuff. But this just feels like one of those Kirby Smart games where they just pull off a win here out of kind of nowhere. Texas got off to a really slow start last week, which is kind of what I was looking at. They can't afford to do that against Georgia, like absolutely not at all. This Georgia defense is still really, really good. And Carson Beck, we know he has an arm. He's mobile enough, maybe not as much as yours, but mobile enough to make plays whenever he wants. Yeah, I mean, without like if I was looking at this game without if you pushed all the off-field incidents aside, say those weren't available in the old brain up here, I think I would just pick Georgia straight. I think Texas has the most talent. I think they're the most fundamentally sound as a team. But for some reason, this one just screams Georgia for me. Man, I don't know. I'm looking at Texas's defense that Tom just called out: 18 sacks, 18 pass deflections, 7 interceptions. This defense is so good, but I don't know. You're right, Tom. Like the feeling here, just I think they pull it off. So I'm gonna. You know what? Wow. I'm changing my mind here for one reason and one reason only. Next week, you know who Texas plays? They play Vanderbilt. They play Vanderbilt, boys.
Oh no!
If Texas wins this game, that will give Vanderbilt a chance to knock off 2 number 1s, and I cannot let that go unchallenged. So for that, I'm just throw away everything I said. I'm switching my pick here to Texas, so we can have Vanderbilt versus Texas on next week's Shots and Chasers, and Vandy taking. That's my pick for next week. I'm just telling you right now, Vanderbilt over Georgia, or sorry, over Texas, and Texas over Georgia this week.
Brian going full galaxy brain. I love it.
And that'll bring us to our last game of the Shots and Chasers here. It's been a long night, sorry. Got to recover. It's been a long week for me. Oregon State taking on UNLV here. We have one team dealing with some transfers, one team dealing with a bunch of teams that transferred out of their conference. Andy, who do you like to win this game?
Yeah, I think there's something fishy a little bit with this spread. Oregon State plus 7.5 as the home team. I'm going to hammer their money line. I think they win the game outright. Anthony Hankerson, 639 yards and 12 touchdowns, averaging 5 yards per carry. UNLV hasn't beaten a Pac-12 team in its last 10 games. I know it's a little different this year, but Oregon State technically is still a Pac-12 team, and they are at home. Since losing to Oregon, they've actually played really, really well. They've put up at least 37 points in each of their last 3 games. They did beat Purdue and Colorado State, so like nobody that's super great. I shouldn't talk too much shit about Purdue. They almost beat my team last week. But I don't know. I like the Beavers here.
All right, Tom.
I would like to take the Beavers. Their quarterback play scares the crap out of me. I mean, just Giovanni McCoy is not good. He's not good at all. And I think Malik Williams is better. And to me, when I look at the Rebels, again, we know we talked about them a few weeks ago with Sluka. That's come and gone. Williams is now the guy, and they run the ball 262 yards per game on average. They average 45 points per game. Ricky White, the third, has been phenomenal this season. 8 touchdown receptions, over 500 yards. Linebacker Jackson Woodard has 4 picks, 3 sacks. He's a playmaker on defense. And when you have a turnover-prone quarterback, make him beat you. And I think they will. So I'm going to go UNLV here and go different from Andy for the second straight game. Put you in a spot again, Brian. Break the tie.
Yeah, so I think after what I just did for the Texas-Georgia game, I'm going to, in that same vein, follow the storyline here and throw some epic shade Matthew Sluka's way. Obviously, for those unfamiliar, UNLV's starting QB essentially quit the team by taking his red shirt, all because he had some knucklehead in a suit telling him that he could go make more NIL money elsewhere. So he quits the team. Malik Williams takes over as the quarterback with a lot of players on the team kind of making it sound like he should have been, in their minds, the starting quarterback from the start of the season. So I don't know what was going on behind closed doors there. But yeah, Williams is he's taking the reins and he's doing really well. Yeah, UNLV, they're grinding. They're still winning. Their only loss was a down-to-the-wire overtime loss to a 5-1 Syracuse team. Yeah, if they win this weekend, there's a good chance they'll be ranked for the first time in like over a decade. We were just talking about how long it's been since Vanderbilt has been ranked. We might see Vanderbilt and UNLV breaking decade-long streaks of not being in the top 25, both in the same weekend. So that'll be exciting. But as far as Oregon State goes, like you guys said, not good through the air at all. Giovanni McCoy, I don't know who I think is worse, honestly, Michigan's trio of knuckleheads or Giovanni McCoy. This season, this season he's been terrible, and they've had to rely on transfer running back Anthony Hankerson from Colorado to get them the yards. He's been fed the ball as many times almost as Giovanni McCoy has thrown the ball this season, and he accounts for 12 of their 24 offensive touchdowns.
Run the damn ball.
Yeah. Typically, Oregon State does have a good defense to rely on to carry them, but for the first time in a while, I don't really see anything special out of them defensively. So that's not something where I'm like, okay, well, I have to pick Oregon State here. And then lastly, Oregon State currently last place in the Pac-12, and guess what? There's only 2 teams, so this is a case of if you're not first, you are literally last. So I'm going with UNLV here. That'll wrap up the Shots and Chasers. That'll wrap up our Week 8 show. Thank you to everyone for joining us. Thank you to Andy and Tom for covering for me last week during the hurricane and being with me yet again here for Week 8. Enjoy the games, everybody, and we'll see you right back here next week, same time, same place, for the Week 9 coverage.